This was the hardest video I've ever had to make. The Quest 2 has been out for about a month from today as I'm recording this video, and it's an interesting headset. I want to get some disclaimers and tell more about who I am before I start this review, because that's very important to realize before you watch someone's video reviewing a headset such as this. First of all, I got this product sent to me for free by Facebook Technologies, and I was not paid to do this video. Also, being said, I've had about 4 years of extreme VR experience. I've tried headsets all the way from the HTC Vive Pre to the Vive Pro, the Cosmos, and the Rift S, almost everything at this point. My most used headset is the one I'm wearing on top of my head, only as a mic for this video, so if you're ever wondering why I'm wearing these in all my videos, that's why. I use this thing mostly, so I am clearly a VR enthusiast, and I use a PC VR for the most part because I have that hardware capable to do so. With that being said, I have a lot to say about this thing right here. So this is the Oculus Quest 2 with all the default attachments that comes with it. This is the 64GB version I'm holding in my hands, and it retails for about $299 US. I mentioned the price first off because the price is kind of the most important thing when it comes to VR for pretty much every reason. I can say things such as, this headset's good, and it's $300. But a lot of times in this review, I might be saying a lot of things that are not so good or things that are just negative. But the problem is, after that, I could just say, but it's $300. So the price is difficult to deal with when I try to review this thing as objective as I can. Of course, being a reviewer, I can't be completely objective because every reviewer and person on this earth has some biases that they need to deal with themselves. So yeah, this thing is $300, and I am aware of that when I say the negatives of this device. I just want to point out every one so people know at least that this device can be improved on for future generations. That's the only reason why I say the negatives in this video, because you can't pretend everything is perfect with a device that is $300 as well. This device is created and owned by Facebook and requires a Facebook account. If you do not have a Facebook account, you will need to make one. If you don't want to make a Facebook account, you will have to fake one, which might get you banned. More on that later in the video. I'm going to save all the Facebook stuff probably near the end, because I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of things to say about that, because for me, that's a pretty big issue. But let's get right into the hardwares. The first thing I want to talk about itself is the tracking. It uses 4 cameras to track where you are in the world, maps out your entire environment, including objects that may be impassable or things you might step on, like a dog, for example. It can literally tell you if there is a dog in your play space or a couch or whatever. It's pretty smart. It's a very smart and easy to set up tracking system. You can set it up anywhere as long as it's not too bright or too dark. It's pretty rare where it's too dark. You have to literally have no lights on. This uses infrared cameras to basically map out the edges of things. But like I said, if it's just too dark in an area, then yeah, you're not going to be able to play completely with lights off in the middle of darkness, night, or whatever. Basically, you cannot play this thing when it's too bright, such as midday, like 12 p.m., noon, sun is shining in your eyes and just blinding everything. It's not going to be able to work during then. But the most normal use case scenario, have a ceiling fan light on, and you use this thing, you are going to have, in fact, no issues setting it up or using it for most things. So the tracking is good. It's very rare that I run into issues for tracking. It's actually based on a game per game basis. So this is the kind of point in VR where we're in, where pretty much before the Quest 1 and Quest 2, a lot of systems for a while were using outside-in tracking, which people would put up base stations in their room or on their desk to sort of be able to track the user and headset where they are as far from the stations themselves. Due to the fact that many systems before the Quest platform did this, a lot of games that are being ported over to this device are kind of being ported over just to get that extra boost from all the consumers that are buying this in the hopes that people will buy their games. So you may run into a few content or titles for the device that were ported from PC when these software titles were mostly used to 360-degree tracking, which means you reach behind your arm or anywhere where the cameras on this device can't see. Then yeah, it's gonna be a little poor sometimes unless you're very used to inside out. This is only the case for a very few titles, but it is something I ran into with the Quest 2 tracking, or just all inside out tracking headsets in general. But for most games that are actually ported very well, or at least had a plan to make the tracking of this device used well, you won't run into any issues during normal VR play. Like, never. It's very good. A lot of games such as Beat Saber or a lot of shooter games that have your hands constantly in front of you, which is how the cameras see. It's mostly like an FOV pointing out like kind of like a triangle in front of you. You will not have issues. It's only when you start grabbing things behind your back, or maybe you start looking one direction and you want to shoot behind you like this, then you're going to start having issues. The only reason I'm bringing that up is because that's just not just this headset, but all inside out tracking headsets in general. The only way that companies can really fix that is maybe one day, who knows, I'm not an engineer, we'll start seeing cameras being put back here, behind people's heads. Eyes in the back of their head, basically. That's probably the only way you can really fix that with inside out tracking headsets, but I don't see that happening anytime soon, I think. The latency of tracking is very good. It never feels like a weird time where I feel like it's not catching up with my controllers or anything in terms of speed. I can shake my hands pretty fast. I shouldn't have done that on YouTube. I don't know why I just did that. And it can keep up pretty well. That being said, if you are the insane of the most insane Beat Saber player, and I'm talking about literally ranked 100 up there on the leaderboards for that game, there may be some slight hiccups in tracking in terms of keeping up with your inhuman paces, but yeah, if you're up there, you're probably not using this device to compete with the top of the top for those kind of games anyway, so that's just something I wanted to mention anyway. It's also important to mention that the tracking is not just for the actual controllers, but there's a feature where it actually tracks your fingers and hands without any use of the controllers itself. Currently, and probably for a while, it's absolutely impossible to track your fingers while holding a controller at the same time. You have to use one function or the other with this device. But let's talk about the hand tracking for just a moment. The hand tracking is very different in terms of than the Valve Index hand tracking, where that actually has a hardware that you hold on to that tracks the fingers. It's all like this. And for the most part, it works very well. Obviously, the only times you'll have issues, I'm going to put this down for a second to explain. Let's say you, viewer, are the camera tracking the hands. Let's say I put one hand here. You can easily track that, right? Well, what if I put a hand here, right in front of the other hand? That is called occlusion. Occlusion. I said that right. That is just another issue that you'll have with a lot of inside-out tracking headsets, because that's just the thing. But it's very rare that you are ever having to use your hands occluded very often, unless you just want to test out tracking. You can use this for UI elements in a couple of games that are actually not even put on the Oculus Quest platform itself, but a side-loaded program called SideQuest, which actually do very well in using these fingers, and kind of gives you an idea of what a finger-only, no-controller game could look like. I could get into the disadvantages and advantages of having only hands without any buttons, but the main ones is you're usually kind of stationary, you have to do weird finger gestures just to move around, and it's not as natural as having a controller with a button and joystick that allows you to move everywhere you want to move. So since we just talked about the tracking of the headset and the tracking of the fingers, that is an extra little feature that comes with it, let's talk about the controllers themselves. So I had a Quest 1, and I always complained that the controllers for the Quest 1 always felt very dinky and like little tiny toys. I am happy to say That still feels the same, actually, to me. They made some slight changes to this controller, and while it does feel slightly better, I still can't get over the fact that it feels kind of like a toy. That's kind of my only complaint for these controllers, besides the fact that it does not have a strap to keep my hand stuck to the controller. The Valve Index, for example, you actually you put your hands in a strap and it tightens around your hand, so you can actually do this without the controller dropping. And when I do that with this controller, obviously I can't do that. There are attachments available that make it more like that, but we are talking about just the default hardware itself these days. Battery life on this thing, now that is a extremely high positive. I am very impressed with the little amount of energy that's clearly being used for these headsets, controllers, like, I don't know why I said headsets. After about 1 month of use, and pretty good use too, I would say, I've only reached about 80% battery on these things, and that is impressive when it comes to VR controller battery life hardware to begin with. The next big competitor is the Valve Index controllers, and they get maybe around 6 hours charged up full to slow drain, so this could last you theoretically like 5 months without having to replace the battery, which you do need to replace the battery. It uses a AA battery, one single per controller, and you take off this little thing here and you replace that. This thing does have a slight sort of finger tracking. It's not to the point where it's actually usable or notable for gaming though. You can see here there is a slight little darker button on the pad there, and that's for example one of the things they put in here that slightly track your fingers or your thumb, deciding where it is on the trigger. And there's also some slight finger tracking on the trigger as well, but it's not to the point where it's really going to decide a big change of gaming. Most games just really care about the actual button inputs themselves, which all the buttons feel good, the joystick feels good, the grip feels good. No complaints. I have a pretty normal sized hand. If you have a larger hand, I can see where this controller would be maybe a hard thing to deal with. Has the strap, definitely recommend putting it on in gameplay. This is actually the only headset I really felt like I needed to use this, because I just get so tired of holding this tiny little handle here for so long where I just want to just let go sometimes and do this a little bit. And yeah, putting on the strap is the main reason I do that. Not the reason that I might throw the controller across the room, Wiimote style back in 2007. So let's go back to the headset. We were just talking about the controllers, which are battery life demons. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how many babies they had to sacrifice to get this technology working so low energy. But yeah, so the headset, let's talk about one of the most important features of a VR headset: comfort. People always seem to forget about this when reviewing a lot of VR headsets, I feel like, which they always talk about the optics, they always talk about the resolution, they always talk about the tracking, but none of those matter if you don't talk about the comfort of the headset. You can have amazing resolution, you can have all these amazing features, but if you can't play longer than 10 to 30 minutes, then what's the point of all of that? I don't know. So it comes with this strap here. I hate it. It's very similar to the strap that came with the Oculus Go, another headset I did not really agree with being a product in today's VR world. It is very cheap feeling. It is very uncomfortable. In fact, last year, when I had the Oculus Quest 1, I always told people that that was the most uncomfortable headset I have ever owned. Quest 1 was heavy, and it had this rubber strap that just didn't give way, and it was uncomfortable to me. And people got mad at me for saying that. This was around the time it just came out, and I said that over and over. And that was when a lot of people were going through their honeymoon phase of the headset, and they were just basically saying, I am lying. It's not uncomfortable at all. It's fine, blah, blah, blah. Then 2 months later, when everyone started, calming down about their purchase, they were like, okay, yeah, this headset's pretty uncomfortable. We need to start modding some straps onto it. And then we started hearing stuff about the Vive Deluxe audio strap being modded to the Quest as FrankenQuest. Well, I am happy again to say now that the Quest 1 is no longer the most uncomfortable headset for me to wear. It is now the Quest 2 with its default strap. it hurts my head. Of course, everyone's head sizes are different, but for the most part, we're already starting to see a lot of people come to the agreement. Where again, we're 1 month later after release, so people are starting to be a little bit more objective with their opinions on the headset they bought. A lot of people find this headset incredibly terrible. Feels like a face hugger strapped to their face for a lot of people. And a lot of it's to do is this strap was designed for a headset, the Oculus Go, which had a lot less going on up here in terms of weight. They kind of threw it on this headset, which is probably nearly double the weight of the Oculus Go, and it just constantly is trying to lower itself on your face. After 10 minutes of play each session with this default strap, I was having issues. I was starting to feel uncomfortable. My face felt like it was being grinded against. I was kind of blaming the pure uncomfortableness just to the strap alone. But there's actually more to it. This is the facial interface that comes on your Quest 2. It's very hard. It doesn't give way too much unless you squeeze it hard like I'm doing my finger right now. It's very similar to the Oculus Rift consumer version 1 that came out in 2016, in fact. And for anyone that ever had that headset, they can tell you for a long period of time, whenever they had it on their face for a long time, it would start making a mark on their face. A lot of people called it like the VR mark or the Oculus branding. like Oculus was getting a hot brand and just burning it onto your face. Well, this is very similar to that. And due to the fact that this strap is constantly letting the front of your headset move and give way, the texture of this facial interface is so painful, like sandpaper, it will start grinding into your face. I'm serious. Comfort of this headset is not good. One more kind of important aspect for comfort is right here. You see there's a gap here where your nose goes, right? So it feels like this headset might have had people or engineers that had very thick or large noses. But for a lot of people, including me, where our noses are kind of thin bridged, a lot of light creeps up from the inside world into our headset, and it's very distracting. Oculus sells some sort of attachments for this, but I really feel it should have been something that they could have easily added on to the default hardware itself for people like me, because again, that is a very important aspect of VR, and most VR headsets have nose guards for this light bleed reason to begin with for years and years. So they just kind of skimped out on that, and I feel that's kind of disappointing to say the very least. So I would say the most uncomfortable headset on the market right now is probably the Oculus Quest 2 with all its default accessories. You will definitely want to look into fixing that if you're serious about buying this thing, which I made a video about that. You can watch mine or other people's. I'm sure many people are starting to talk about the different third-party solutions, especially, and even going back to talking about the Vive Deluxe audio strap. So now we talked about some of the most worst things about the headset, which is the comfort. Let's talk about the amazing things. The most amazing thing about it is definitely the resolution and the optics of this headset. It's got a very high resolution, and the screen door effect, compared to the last Quest, which uses OLED, this used LCD panels. Very big difference in the actual visual quality. Anyone that knows anything about VR or has been around in VR for the past 4 years, a lot of the older headsets would use OLED, mainly for just the good blacks and all that quality that comes with it. But the issue with OLED is they had a lot of gaps between the pixels, which a lot of people would call the screen door effect, or mosquito net, or whatever you want to call it. It was difficult for people to get fully immersed due to those tiny black gaps between the pixels, and it just did not look real. All the headsets started switching to LCD panels, which were much better in dealing with this ugly effect that just was objectively bad. This headset, compared to the Quest 1, also switched from OLED to LCD and also bumped up resolution quite a lot, and it's very noticeable. Throughout a lot of actual gameplay, you don't really notice any screen door effect while playing. I mean, you could look really hard and look deep to try to see it, and it obviously, this can always be improved upon. Resolution can always be improved. Sub-pixel count can also be improved. All that stuff can be improved, but for the most part, we're kind of past the age where screen door effect is as huge of a problem as it was in 2016. Colors of the headset look really good. The display, there's not much to actually complain about the LCD itself. The things to start complaining about maybe is the actual way that this device kind of uses the LCD. Some of the higher tier headsets, such as the Valve Index for example, actually has two small LCD panels in it that separate and get farther or closer from each other. Why would a expensive headset do that and a cheap headset not do that? Well, the main reason is the IPD, which is the interpupillary distance. That's basically for everyone has a different distance between their eyes, right? Everyone's built different, everyone's made different. Some people have stingray eyes, some people have, I don't even know what you call it, but just super close eyes. And due to that, people need to actually change their headset's IPD settings to sort of change it. Well, the Valve Index, like I said, they move the small displays away and closer to each other, but this thing only has one long display. So how does this headset deal with the IPD? They actually use what's called a digital solution. So you can see here, and I'm gonna make it really close for you, I can actually push the lens closer and farther together to change 3 different IPD settings, and they're not very far in difference, that much, compared to a lot of the other expensive headsets. But what happens is when you, let's say, go from the closest setting to the farthest setting, the software in the headset will actually render kind of like 2 circles on the big long square display and slowly separate those circles on the flat one display itself. So it's not hardware, it's all done in software. The issue with this headset is, which may be an issue if you are kind of in the far away eyes category of humanity, you may start noticing a problem with this headset. In fact, a lot of people have, is when it's on the most far away setting, you start to see the actual edge of that one long rectangular display. So your FOV, which is your field of view and how much you can see of the world, is actually drastically different than someone that has their eyes closer together for this headset. And there is actually no way to fix that. That is just a hardware limitation of the device. Again, this only matters if you are far away-eyed person, which there are people like that. I mean, yeah. They only did this because having one display costs a lot, especially when you're putting a high-resolution panel, and yeah, that's important if you want to keep costs low. Currently, this device only supports 72 Hz, but they plan to finally update it and make it the full 90 Hz for everything. In fact, you can already modify it to run 90 Hz all the time if you have a side Quest application on your PC. And I definitely recommend doing that as much as you can, because for those who are new to VR and don't know this, the main reason so many headsets are at least 90 Hz or above is because back when everyone was figuring out how to combat motion sickness in VR, they pretty much figured out that higher refresh rates are the biggest impactor in making sure people can stay a little bit more level or less motion sick. This being 72 Hz, which is below that 90 Hz mark that even the Oculus Rift consumer version 1 had 90 Hz. The HTC Vive had it. The Valve Index bumped it up to even more for that better slice of life, or whatever you want to call it. Most headsets have 90 Hz or above, and that is for a reason. This one currently still has 72 Hz. The Oculus Quest 1 was stuck at 72 Hz, and yeah, if you are already prone to motion sickness, having a lower refresh rate than what is kind of the industry standard could be a problem, but they're apparently going to update that default in a later update. If you're someone that is used to 90 Hz, you will probably actually seriously notice a difference when you are bumped down to the 72 Hz mark. This is all one of those things that's going to be outdated one of these days from this video, but it is important to mention for those who are new to VR, which many people that are looking at videos or reviews of this device, they do need to know these things. So yeah, resolution's great. Refresh rate will be bumped up for now is like, could be better, which it will be. So we talked about comfort and the resolution. Let's talk about, I guess, optics. There's not anything special here in terms of optics. It uses Fresnel lenses, which you can see close up. There's like a bunch of little tiny lines between the headset. It's not that easy to see on camera, unfortunately. That's kind of the standard for most VR headsets. We're not seeing anything incredible here in terms of any optics or special lenses. What is important to say, though, is if you wear glasses, you might actually want to look into getting a special prescription lens attachment for a device like this. This headset comes with a tiny plastic device that allows you to make the headset slightly point out forward more to allow you to wear glasses while wearing the headset. But I've noticed a lot of people, their glasses are too thick even for that. And that alone makes them need to invest into some sort of eye contact lens that attach right here onto the lens themselves so they can actually do VR without wearing glasses. Because this headset is not very comfortable for a lot of people with glasses, apparently, that want to wear them. But it's $300, right? We're going to always keep coming to that. But it's $300. But it's $300, Brad. But it's $300. Yes. They have to cut corners by a lot to get to the price tag that they're at, and I'm just mentioning all the corners they did cut while praising the things that they did amazing with the device. I believe I have to keep saying that over and over in the video because people will misunderstand me when I say all these things. So let's get into the audio of this headset. For those who do not maybe know, you can see here, both ears have it. There's this little speaker grill on each side, which when you have the headset on, actually feels like the speakers are slightly in front of your cheeks just a tiny bit, at least for me. And I will say audio is another very underrated thing for VR. For me, these speakers are in the okay category. Maybe C or D+. They are okay for most cases. Like you play a rhythm game or anything like that, nothing too serious. It's fine. Yeah, it's okay. But if you want to start getting to some like serious first-person shooting or actual very immersive environment games like Half-Life Alyx with Link or Virtual Desktop, I recommend using this hole right here. You see this hole? That is a headphones port. A lot of phones don't have them these days, but if you're... Imagine, there's going to be a time in our life where there's going to be kids growing up without this headphone port, and they're going to be asking us, what is this magical hole? And we'll tell them, oh yeah, that's for headphones. Headphones are heavily recommended for this headset if you could, or if you have a good pair of headphones laying around, I definitely recommend it. It sucks because, you know, it's an extra wire you have to deal with. Maybe even some Bluetooth headphones might be good to connect to this thing, but the speaker grills are okay for some experiences, but really feel lacking in some of the more immersive titles. People disagree with me all the time when I say these kind of things. However, I feel I am correct in the fact that people are already talking about buying the Vive. I've mentioned this thing so many times, it might as well be a paid ad, but the Vive Deluxe audio strap is a strap that not only makes this thing more comfortable, but also has built-in headphones for it, which makes everyone's experience with their Quests or Quest 2 just 100 times better. So trust me, I'm not just saying these things to hate on this product. I'm saying these things to make your product better if you plan on buying it. Also, an important thing to talk about for audio is it does have two mics here, dual mics that work pretty okay. I gotta say, the quality surprised me when I first tested them out. So I would say the quality is vastly better in terms of audio mic quality than the Quest 1, which I would complain all the time because if I was playing a cross-play game with someone that had a Quest 1 mic, I would hear everything in their house. The TV, the crying baby, the mom screaming at their 10-year-old son for not doing the dishes. It was obnoxious, but so far what I've heard from with these mics is it's pretty okay. It's okay for gameplay, not okay for maybe content creation, which I've said before. So yeah, that's pretty good. I didn't really expect that, I guess. What about battery life? Well, this is a standalone headset, right? That is the most important aspect of it. People keep reminding me all the time, Brad, standalone is the future, Brad. You gotta support the standalone. What that means is this basically has a built-in Snapdragon XR2. You may have heard Snapdragon before. That's an unfamiliar name. Where have I heard Snapdragon? All the Android phones pretty much use Snapdragon processors to power their phones, whether it's for graphics or CPU. This is basically a super powerful phone built for VR, a special chip, and that's why it can do VR without a computer or console. You know, this thing's kind of like a console in its own, in my opinion. So yeah, it's standalone. You don't need a computer or anything. That is what really puts it apart from everyone else, right? So it has its own battery life too. The battery life is about 2 hours long, which is okay in my opinion, because if you're buying the headset default with the default strap, you're probably not getting to the 2-hour marks in your sessions anyway, because you're just taking it off so you can at least make your face have some cream to deal with the sandpaper facial interface. Battery life is okay for this thing. I mean, I can't really expect more. I'm thankful that I only have to charge this thing and not these things. If all of these things together had to be constantly charged all the time, then yeah, it would be a bigger complaint. But for me, 2 hours on this thing is actually not terrible. Charges via USB-C port here, comes with its own charger. Apple. And yeah, battery life is not a concern for me. What about the Oculus software? That's a small thing to kind of talk about, but you kind of do need to talk about the software. Well, I always felt the Oculus software for not only their PC VR devices was pretty well made. Very smart people work on the software for this device. The Oculus Home, or whatever they call it, the hub and the store. It's all very well made and very well UI'd and all that stuff. So I have no complaints about the software. In fact, I think it's pretty good. And Steam VR itself needs a lot more updates to keep catching up with Oculus, because the Steam VR platform on PC, it needs help. It needs help these days. But let's put this down for a second, because I really can't think of anything else to talk about this thing, except for one thing that really sets it apart from the rest. As I said, this device requires Facebook login. And that is a huge problem, the main problem that the device suffers from, in my genuine opinion. And it's probably, despite all these cost-cutting factors that I mentioned in this review, to make the price down to $300, which is $100 less than the Oculus Quest from last year, it's probably because of the Facebook login that allows them to sell it so low. Let me explain why. Of all the things that Facebook does, what they make money from most? Well, if anyone that knows anything about Facebook, their entire money-making scheme on their social media platform and now their Oculus VR platform is selling user information to whoever wants it for whatever price. So by requiring this device to have a real name and login, which they actively enforce. You could try making fake Facebook accounts all you want, but many are being banned. Even some real Facebook accounts are being banned. It's unlikely, and it's a stressful situation to use a fake Facebook account for this device. You may lose all your content you bought on the fake Facebook account if you don't want to use this with Facebook, which I would understand completely if you don't want to attach your real name to a VR digital service that is also able to scan your entire rooms, remember all your room layouts, remember every object in your room later, like they showed off in their AR technology. It's a huge problem. People are already apparently jailbroke this device to get past the Facebook authorization. Basically, people figured out how to use this device without Facebook. With that being said, that would also mean you could never update this device if you jailbroke this device whenever it comes out to the public, and you might miss out on a lot of features coming down the line for this device. The hand tracking feature I talked about earlier in the video, that was actually a feature added on later to the Oculus Quest 1 that wasn't really come with it standard when it first came out. And that is a huge feature to just come out in a random software update. So I fear that some things like that could happen with this, and I fear that the jailbreak community for this device will grow and become a very important moral thing for this device if you want to get into VR. So yeah, the Facebook thing is something I care about a lot, and I think it's the only thing that makes this device bad for me. Yeah, I said it. It's bad. It's only bad because of the Facebook requirement. If this was last year and this was the Oculus Quest 1, which did not require a Facebook account, mind you, if people are new to the VR completely or just had the Oculus Quest 2 as their first headset, this is a new thing. This is not a regular Oculus thing. This is very new, brand new this year to this device. If this released last year at $400 even, or without the Facebook account, I would be praising this to the sky gods everywhere. This would be the headset I tell everyone to buy. Tell everyone. But due to the fact that I knew that Facebook would do this someday and they've actually done it, I can't say this is the perfect device. Unless you have a jailbreak, and even then the jailbreak process is like... But if the Facebook stuff really doesn't matter to you, you already have a Facebook, you got scammed back when Facebook came out and it was the biggest thing, and you're not over 50, and you know, a lot of people grew up with social media being a new thing, so we all got scammed into signing up for it, so it's too late for us, it's too late for us! This is a good headset. It's a great headset for dipping your toes into VR, and maybe looking into something later that is for you in terms of enthusiasts. This is a standalone VR headset that can be plugged into the PC, and it does so very well with either wireless virtual desktop or Oculus Link. This is a dip your toes into VR headset for me. A lot of people who try this headset might later on feel, wow, VR might be my new true love in life. And they might start wanting to upgrade other things to become a VR enthusiast. I don't feel this is a VR enthusiast hardware device. I feel this is a dip your toes into VR, get the idea, start understanding why so many people love VR, and then later on they might want to go into PC VR, which is a totally separate vacuum than what this device is. I do not believe this device competes with the Valve Index, the HP Reverb, the Deca Gear if it actually exists. I think it's its own thing with no competition. And that is the problem of this device. This device currently has no competition. There is no other standalone VR headset in the West, ignore China, there's nothing that competes with this. And I fear because of the fact that Facebook is being such a powerful force, in fact, to the point where it's almost monopoly level, I would say it is monopoly level, we're not going to be able to see any competition to this device for a very long time. And that worries me, and that's the only reason I can't fully love this device. Wow. Okay, this video was super long. I know if you somehow got to this point where I'm talking, you are crazy. I know this is the longest review probably out there right now. There might be longer ones, but this is literally everything that I can talk about for this headset behind me. If you have any questions or concerns or even disagree, but want to disagree in a kind and facilitating way, let my comment section be an open forum. I will reply to everything that is at least nicely written and not nefariously or meanly written. I will reply to everything, even if this video is 2 years old, because this device, opinions change. Maybe later on something will happen that will change my opinion and I'll have to start updating all my comments or replies to facilitate that. But this is an open review. It will never end because this device will change. VR as an industry has changed so much in the 4 years, and we'll see. Maybe a competitor will happen that will make this complaint at the very end here useless. I hope so, but if you found this video helpful, please like it, subscribe, because I am very passionate about VR. If this video did not at least show to you, I am a passionate person of VR that's been doing VR for a very long time, that knows what they're talking about. I can show you so many things about this entire medium that will blow your mind. I believe so. So please subscribe, like, and share this video if you think it might be useful for other people. I tried to make this video as useful as I can. It's important to me. This was the most hardest video I had to make because I am terrified of the audience, to be fair, and let's see what happens. Have a safe and great day, everyone. BradSmells.com